Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Alyssa Czisny. Where's
Yeah,
Jonathan?
yes. Well, I'm thrilled to welcome you back to discuss the NHK Trophy. Alyssa, you sent me some interesting text messages, so I want to get your take on ice dance because you had a really interesting thought that you feel like the vibes of the two American teams are switched. And once you said it to me, I couldn't unsee it when I was watching the teams.
I noted. Okay, so it's Green and Parsons and
Carrera and
Farah and
Ponomarenko.
Ponomarenko. And when I was watching Michael Parsons skate, specifically Michael, I was getting vibes of Scott Moyer,
Okay.
but Charlie's their coach.
Yes.
And then when I was watching Anthony Ponomarenko, I was getting vibes of Charlie, but Scott's their coach. And just felt like I was so curious what would happen if the teams flipped their coaches because the vibe of the boys felt like the other coach. And then Charlie isn't really Scott's vibe. And Scott's not like they have their own distinct
So
styles.
what do you consider the vibe of each? And I consider you well versed in this area. You grew up with both teams. You're from Michigan and you did shows and exhibitions with them all over the world.
I think that Scott is more intense when
Okay.
he skates. And I feel like I don't want to say stronger because that's not the right word because Charlie's a strong dancer, but I feel like Charlie doesn't have the connection that Scott had with, like, Scott took up space and said, I'm here and this is like, watch me. And you better give me the votes or give me not the votes, but you better give me the scores. And I felt like Charlie was like, this is what I do. And if you think I'm good, then great. You know what I mean? That's maybe not
Okay, so the way
not
I
the best way to
saw
put
it,
it, but
from what I think of them, I always think of the fact that Charlie's really dynamic, physically strong, seems broad. He actually seems like a bigger guy when he's skating than he
yes.
physically is, but some of that was his hair and the costumes, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of Charlie, he's really powerful, right? Not that Scott isn't powerful, because Scott's a very
Yeah.
powerful skater, but I always think of Charlie doing like big Arabians over Merrill and like just skating, right? Like,
Yeah. And it's not like one is better than the other. It's just the vibes.
mhm.
And Scott's like in your face, kind of, really strong vibe. And Charlie's more of like um uh like you observe Charlie when he's skating, whereas Scott is inviting you to like he's daring you to watch him.
I think of like Scott has more ballroom dance in him, and Charlie has a lot of like skating in here. It's weird.
Freestyle
Right?
and hockey, right?
They
Like
both
he's
play
very
hockey.
athletic.
Charlie is very athletic.
And when he
And
skates, it's dynamic, like you said, and athletic. Not that Scott's isn't, but Scott has something different. It is ballroom dance-esque.
I just always think of like Charlie would go side to side around Merrill and be like whooshing almost out of control, right?
Yeah.
Not out of control, but like had the appearance that he was on the edge of his blade, right? And that made you in the
Yeah.
edge of your seat watching them. And
Yeah.
they would flip and they would do the. Scott was oddly more controlled in a sense, even though he's also a very big personality. It's hard to
Yeah.
describe
And
the
I
difference.
I
Yeah.
I feel like Charlie's skating as well was more cerebral.
Okay.
And I felt Scott's was, like I said, more in your face, like more daring.
Hmm.
And so I'm so interested because it feels like Green and Parsons could be a more dynamic team of more in your face, but I feel like they're not yet. They either don't believe in themselves in that respect or they don't see dance in that way. And I'm so curious that if they were with Scott Moyer, would they be more daring of a team? Because I
Hmm.
think they have it in them. I see it.
Yeah.
And the opposite with Christina and Anthony is I feel like I mean, this Carmen program is great, by the way.
Hmm.
Like, I think it's fantastic. It's really cool, but it's missing something. And I just wonder if like that program that Green and Parsons had, that Carmen program, what they would do with it. I'm so curious.
So
Like this,
I was texting with Sandra yesterday and I was asking about Lindsay's program, right?
I love her program, by the way.
Yes. And she said that they intentionally picked music that was authentically Lindsay, that wasn't like she was trying on something for a performance. And when I watched Carrera and Ponomarenko, one, Tessa and Scott did, Carmen, like they're doing. So
It's
they're obviously
phenomenal.
we're gonna make comparisons where there
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
similarities. But I really felt like Tessa was that Carmen, like that was a part of herself, that was a
Yeah.
part of her personality that she was showing that maybe she hadn't shared.
Yeah.
I feel like Christina and Anthony are putting this program on and trying to be it rather than it
Yeah.
just being part of themselves, if that makes
Yes.
sense. It's like a
And
nuance.
that's also okay. Like you have to try, especially as a skater, you have to try other things. And I do think they are safely in that phase where they can try other things because they know they're stacked exactly here in the
Mhm.
dance world, you know? And so that's great. I just felt like I was so curious what that program would look like on Green and Parsons and what would Christina and Anthony, what would make us feel like it's authentically them.
Yeah. I think Christina and Anthony are really good. And I think technically they're actually quite strong and experienced.
Yeah,
And I've
yeah, yeah, yeah.
noticed
And I
I
think the
have
program is
some,
great. Like I'm not
yeah.
dissing this program at all.
No, it's a little bit of a stretch, right? Like, you know how they talk about like stretch assignments at work and things like that? Like, this music choice is, let's say that this is their comfort range. It's a little bit up here, right? It's just like
Yeah,
a little bit more. And I
yeah.
think the yellow costume and the styling, it's
They
just really,
felt subdued for how strong the program was.
yes.
And maybe we'll see it grow. That would be great. And like year wise in a in the quadrennial for them, this is the year to do something that is stretching you. And hopefully it does push them.
And I feel like they've each become stronger. I've really seen a growth in Christina since they've been working with Madison Hubble and Scott Moyer and Adrian. I I don't fully know who she is yet. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
some of
feel
that
like
is just they haven't been the number one dance team in the country. They're also newer being the number two team, right? Like even though we've watched them for a long time, they haven't been like our focus, right? Like they've kind of been there, they've been getting better.
yeah.
Uh, and sometimes when they were with Igor, they had kind of generic programs for a while.
And maybe that's why we still see them as generic.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, maybe we need more of this Carmen for them to figure out who they are. I mean, when Piper and Paul came on the scene, we knew who Piper and Paul were right away. And they
Mhm.
have never strayed from being like they've tried many things, but we still see them in each one.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that in Christina and Anthony yet.
But they are growing. And I do
Oh, for
notice like
sure.
she's becoming this performer. It doesn't feel quite natural yet. Tessa did Carmen perhaps right later in their
And
careers,
she should have, right?
tired, right? Like I think it's like is structure. Um, and Tessa's such a natural performer, quintessential. There
It's
are
God
differences.
is strong enough to both have a strong woman when he performs and be that Carmen character. Um,
Mhm.
Change of subject, but I liked the Azerbaijani team, their short
Okay.
dance.
Okay.
I know that I did not like their free dance last year, and I said that I did not like their free dance, but I really enjoyed the short dance, the rhythm dance, I mean,
Okay.
this year.
Yes. Okay, I wanted to ask you about by the way, I thought Christina and Anthony, what I thought really stuck out as we just criticized them, but it's more we're talking about them in comparison to like the teams above them. So it's actually a compliment that we're talking about it, even though it might seem like it's a negative and we're starting with them. It's because I see like growth potential, right? Like they're among a top
Sure,
team.
'cause this is a really good program, and this is a really good vehicle for them, and they haven't quite gotten there yet, but that doesn't mean they won't by even the end of this year.
Yes. Green and Parsons, I felt like they could have beaten Allison Reed here based on their skating. I thought Carrera
Yeah.
and Pomerenko, I thought they had a really strong 1 foot section. And that they had some really cool lifts, Carrera and Pomerenko. As for Green and Parsons, I felt like they were going back to the vibe that they were successful with during the Olympic season when they won 4 continents. The music is similar. It is the Spiegel and Spiegel, and what they do differently than Jason Brown is they
They
change the
change.
music,
Yeah. But
which I think works for them.
I really wanted to see this. Like, I would love to see them do this Carmen and Christina and Anthony do the Carmen, and just to like see that comparison in a way too, because Michael has this like something Scott Moyer about him that we
And I've
haven't
heard
seen
that
yet.
Caroline has a secret feisty side.
That's fun.
Allegedly, when they left their coaches in Virginia, like she made that decision that they were leaving and he followed her.
But when you make a decision like that and you stand up for yourself, that's how you start to become who the person we see that's you. So that's
Yes.
great. That's awesome.
So she is a leader. And I think we see that in her. When we interviewed them, it was clear that she was, younger than him at that point. And I feel like I interviewed them when she was about 17. And I was struck by that she was very poised and knew what she wanted. She was
Fantastic.
very direct, right? She had that quality about her. And I think that as we watch them, they've come back from injuries, and they're getting it done. I thought that they looked much better than they have in the last 2 seasons, where their programs have been a miss.
Yes, I agree. I thought that they did look good.
Mhm.
And okay, so totally off the subject, but I was watching old competition stuff.
Mhm.
And I watched Scott and Tessa from it would be not their Prince program. Did they do Rolling Stones? Shoot, what am I thinking? No, they did
Did
not Led Zeppelin. Oh my
the
gosh.
Olympic season, they did
No.
Hotel California, the Eagles, right? Right? Sorry.
Yes, right. So it was the Eagles and it was Pink Floyd and something else. So I
Yeah.
was watching that and I kind of respect ice dancing in that it's a little bit easier now than it was then. Because
Mhm.
as cool as that program was, there were too many requirements. And now the
Mm.
programs are more entertaining.
Okay.
So I'm really happy with the rule changes in the ice dance because we get to see more program, more personality, more like set the scene. And when I was watching that, because I remembered it, and Kurt was talking about how good it was, and it is good, but they
Mhm.
have to do so much in the program.
Mm.
But it's
That was
interesting,
really technically difficult.
so
And
much.
that era in ice dance, that rhythm dance and those requirements really differentiated the top teams in a sense
Yeah,
that you couldn't make it up after the rhythm dance.
yeah.
It was so clear that Tessa and Scott were number one. Papadakis and Cicerone were number two because they never were like on the beat of the music. They kind of skate like artists, like they're more, if they want to like be at the end of a measure and then at the quick end of it, right? Like they have a different rhythm
Which is
than,
also what makes them so engaging.
yes.
But
But in a pattern dance, it's hard to like fit in that box. And Tessa and
yeah,
Scott were so good at being like perfect.
yeah.
And then Hubble and Donahue had their interpretation, right?
I
And then it was like,
loved watching them.
yes, I miss Hubble competing, don't you? I mean, like we just talk about her all the time. We didn't know how interesting she. I mean, we did. She was the focus of every episode, but this is she's missed. Like
Yeah. But I think that she'll probably bring that out, hopefully in her students, like
yeah,
give them the ability to perform like she did, you know?
yeah. Yeah. What did you think of Allison Reed and her partner from the Lithuanians?
I loved the short dance. This is the first year that I was like, I really like their work.
Hmm.
I haven't enjoyed their programs yet. And I really liked the short dance, and I'm going to keep calling it the short dance, even though it's the rhythm dance.
It
Um,
switches back and forth. It'll be
I'm
the
a
short dance.
freestyler after all.
It was once the original dance. It was once the
Right,
original set
right.
pattern.
All of them.
The short program, the shorter program.
The shorter
Yes.
program, the technical program. Um,
Okay,
I
wait, wait. In singles, it's been the technical program, the original program, and the short program.
right. Yes.
And
No, I liked their rhythm dance a lot. I didn't like their free dance as much, but I didn't hate it. Like it didn't rub me the wrong way. I don't know last year's. Something about last year's was not something I could enjoy. But the short dance, fantastic.
Mhm.
For real, because I just felt like it was them and I felt like she was super engaged with it and it didn't feel fake in any way. Like it didn't feel put on because the rhythm dance idea is hard for some people and sometimes it feels too fake.
Mhm.
The faces are too much. But for theirs, I felt it was authentic and I was like, I want to see this more on them because they
I
really do the classical dramatic free dance all the time.
Yeah, I had a couple friends that competed in Graz, so I was watching a couple of those short dances, and it felt like a bad costume party. in a sense. There were like maybe fake sideburns and bell bottoms, and it was rougher to watch that.
But like, and for Maddie and Evan, because I still think theirs has too many cuts.
Yes.
But I was watching it more closely now that you told me like what they were trying to do. And I wish that they would just stick with the earlier styles because
Yes.
they do that well.
Okay, so my notes said that they should just do the 50s.
I love
Okay.
it. It looks fantastic on them.
It looks really good on them. And I think that they could get better costumes because the costumes don't really match any of the eras that they're in.
It looked like they were outvoting in those costumes.
Yes. Okay. So to me, I get this weird vibe between the beginning of The Incredibles and like Betty and Don Draper like going out for a night while the babysitter's home. And that ages them, right?
The only way that they could do all these styles is if they had a little costume change each time the music changed. And I know that's completely unreasonable, but Scott Hamilton did a show program once that was help me out, the Wicked Witch of the West. What is the
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
from
Okay, yes, yes, yes,
whatever.
yes.
Anyway, so he played every part and it was a Jeff Billings, like phenomenal costume where he changed like this and he would pull out a tail or he pulled out like straw hands. So he was every character because like the other ones didn't, no one else showed up or something. Like the premise was cute, but the whole program worked because his costume changed every time he changed character and music. So if they could do something brilliant like that, which they can't obviously, but like then it would work.
I mean, I'm sure she could figure out how to do it. However,
Brilliant. It would be brilliant.
what I notice is Evan really shines in the early part of the
I
program.
agree. I agree.
And I feel like I haven't watched Evan skate in 10 years. I don't know. I haven't noticed him in 10 years because you're always watching Maddie and her costumes and the vibe and what they're doing. I was watching him dance more. And I thought he was quite good. And I thought, oh, I haven't watched Evan skate in a long time.
And that's that style, that era, the 50s, I think is what they start with, that matches
Yes.
him. When they first went to Marie France and Patrice, the
Mhm.
program that they did where he had the gold bow tie,
Yes.
watch him in that one. I thought that to this day is still one of my favorite pieces of
The
theirs.
Elvis program.
No, I don't think it's Elvis.
She had a gold dress. So if
He
you're
had a gold
talking
dress and he had a
he
gold bow
wore,
tie.
okay. She had a gold dress when they did the Elvis program. If you're talking about what he wore, who can remember? I mean, I could tell you what she wore in every program.
Free dance. Did they do Elvis for a short dance or free? I don't think it was,
Elvis was the free dance.
I don't think it was that one. If it was, I don't remember. Anyways, I thought that we really saw him in that number for the first time.
I really saw him in this rhythm dance. I find that it's cool. The YMCA part, like I like that they do it on the crossroads, and I think that like while that's interesting, it feels corny to me and too many cuts, too many things. I feel like the 70s part just gets to be
Yeah.
costumey.
When the YMCA comes in is when they lost me
Mhm.
because that change is so weird. And I
It's
know it's
before
recognizable.
that change, when it goes into the 70s, that it starts getting weird for me. The
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing. And I have to tell you, not her best dress, right? Because she has to wear something that matches everything and therefore matches nothing. And it's just a very weird vibe where it feels like mom and dad are out for a night on the town, which ages them in not a good way. Where people have started to notice how long they've been competing for. And it's not great. It's
I have a feeling that maybe this will change before.
also Paul Poirier has been skating just as long, if we're going to point that out. However, I think the costumes should change for this. Yeah.
And maybe the amount of cuts.
The weird thing is Montreal doesn't really change their programs usually once they do it. And
Oh,
the weird thing is Hubble and Donahue did something with way too many cuts in 2017.
they changed it, right?
I don't think so.
But Tess and Scott changed Moulin Rouge
They did.
throughout the season, but they also drive their own bus,
Yes.
in
I feel
terms
like
of,
Madison Chock drives her own bus if she wanted to.
yeah. I also really hope that when she's done skating, she'll go into helping design costumes for skaters.
That's what she's supposed to be doing. She opened
Okay.
business.
Oh,
So
neat. Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome.
I think she'd be good at packaging, like in terms of music too. I think they could just stop at the end of the beginning section because they look so sophisticated doing some of those dances.
Agree,
And I
agree.
think that the 70s dances are just less sophisticated.
That's a good way to put it. And so then we lose that glamorous sophistication that like they are on top and they know like they are the
Mhm.
best. That's true. And then it makes them look a little cheesy and then we lose a bit of respect, not the right word, but that idea of like they are on top and now they're just like corny,
Yeah. It
corny dad.
becomes corny when they get to the 70s.
Yeah. But I like same as you, I liked the beginning a lot.
There is a corny element to that program.
I mean, there's a corny element to this whole rhythm dance idea. I did
And
enjoy
to
it,
me, Piper and Paul are always a little bit corny.
but that's
So
okay because that's them, and we know that's them. You know, like I appreciate that about them is that they always come and it's quirky and it's unique and it's okay if it's corny because we see them and they shared themselves with us.
but they have to get the note right because they need to win worlds this year, right?
I know. I hope they win worlds.
Well, I'm talking about Chalk and Bates, right? Like Chalk and Bates need to win worlds this
No,
year.
they do, but I want Piper and Paul to win
Yes,
worlds.
okay.
I think they
But
deserve to win worlds.
Piper and Paul are like breathing down their necks. Like,
Yeah,
even though worlds are in Boston, Chalk and
right.
Bates are in a tough position because they've won the last two worlds with mistakes. If they have any errors this year, I don't think they're going to win. No matter what the panel looks like, it's almost like there becomes a fatigue. And I think the fatigue is stronger than the country of the judging panels. Like, I just think it could go the other way, especially because Piper and Paul are a North American team. The audience is very familiar with them. There is going to be support for them in Boston. Frankly, she's American, right? It's
And
not like,
they're also crowd pleasers. Like when they skate, when you're not a super serious fan, Piper and Paul entertain you. And that
mhm.
is kind of what the audience wants is to be entertained.
Yeah. I don't think that the crowd in Boston is going to help the Italians. I think it could help Fear and
You know
Gibson.
what? I haven't watched them because I haven't done the events that they're in, so I haven't seen them at all. So I have no
Rough,
comment on them.
real rough. Just
Okay. But I
like
like them a
talk
lot.
talk about corny. They're dressed as robots.
I did see the costumes, but I really like them as a team, though. I hope that they
Yeah, it's interesting. It's getting interesting. I thought that the Take Five program took several notches up in terms of sophistication and development compared to when we saw it last time. They also have had times of training. Apparently, she was really sick before Skate America. I just thought it was
that's why
way.
they looked unprepared. I think that this program will be a lot better by Worlds too. Like it's there right now and it's running, but in terms of entertaining the audience and
Mhm.
being that sharp, like exciting, dynamic program.
Yeah, at Skate America, I noticed that their 1 foot section was way slower than the music. I didn't notice it here, right? Like it didn't stick out to me as anything.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
I felt like it just looked, there were like moments of the program that I was appreciating more that I completely didn't see at Skate America. And they looked kind of corny at Skate America. And they looked like they were embodying it better
Yeah.
here. So I think they should alter the rhythm dance and to make sure that that is as strong as it could be because they want to get a lead there if they
They
can.
need to. They have to, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's so close now.
Yeah. Okay. What did you make of the men? Jason Brown, we talked about last time.
Okay, first of all, like an overall view, I know that I was at the airport early in the morning, but I was falling asleep watching the men's short program. It was so boring. Everybody skated to boring music until cow.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm,
that was, and the women's was the opposite. Like all the women's short program event was super
mhm.
exciting because everyone had different styles. There was like real engagement with the audience, all the things that I've been complaining about, like skating, it doesn't have lately. I thought the women's short program was, I also think that the skaters trust the Japanese audience.
Mhm,
And so they're willing to connect more.
mhm.
Does that make sense? But also the women's short programs were like everybody had different styles. The men, everybody had the same classical style.
They also show up for Japan because you know it's going to be a great audience.
And they probably also invite people that they know maybe will entertain them.
Okay, what did you make of Jason? We discussed him a couple of weeks ago. It looks like he's really lost his confidence and
He's
timing for the triple axel.
Completely, it doesn't, going into it now, he doesn't trust it, but it's the same thing as I was saying, he gets back here
Mhm.
and he breaks his spine in a way, right? Like he breaks that connection. And then so his he starts to react slower, like with his
Mhm.
body on the landing, and so he's not as quick. And so he's now missing jumps that were easy for him.
Yeah, his let's toe was.
But he looks stronger and sharper and like he still looks like he's getting better as a skater, but he's losing his jumps because they're like everything is just broken a little bit.
Mm.
And I worry about his reaction because I mean it's fine not to look like you're about to be, murdered after you miss something
Mhm.
or that it's the end of the world, but it looks like he's not surprised by missing two triple axels and a triple triple.
Yeah, it's hard because he's such a crowd pleaser. I almost feel like he goes into a certain mode with the audience. He wants to show them respect, but you can't really tell how he's feeling. He has a poker face that is stronger than Madison Chock in the Kiss and Cry. If Jason is getting a bad score, he's gonna nod like, that's the score I'm getting. Yep, 77 points. And you know he's not thrilled with that because he knows he can do better than that. Uh,
Yeah, I
you
just
can
worry
see it
because
more in Tracy's face, like if you watch,
yeah.
like how
Oh
she's
yeah.
trying to hold it in. Uh,
I worry though because the jumps look like they're not like his jumps have always been so consistent.
yes.
You jump, the kind of the lazy free leg that's sometimes 2 foots, but other than that, like you don't worry about him missing. And now clearly we're worried about him missing, but he can't be fourth or fifth at Worlds when you miss anything. When you
No.
don't do a quad, you have to be perfect every time.
Do you think like he's injured? They said that he had boot problems at one point. Is that
I
like a
think
reaction?
I don't know if he still is, but I also know that we haven't seen him on the Grand Prix for a couple of years, right? So we're not used to seeing him in the process of getting to where he is at Worlds. So maybe
Yeah.
this is him every fall that we don't know of yet.
He was before the last Olympics. He had been injured the summer before,
Hmm.
but I remember thinking like physically it was tough. And I got hate comments, but I was nervous he wasn't gonna be able to make the Olympic team because Ilya was coming up and he was
Yeah.
looking rough.
And
Uh,
I also don't like I don't doubt that he's gonna still show up at Worlds because we see Jason show up at Worlds and maybe it takes a lot of courage to come out when you are not ready.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? Like if he knows that he doesn't have this triple axel consistent yet and he's still going out to compete, that takes courage just to know that like, look, I'm putting myself out there without a quad anyways and now missing the triple axel, but I just want to prepare myself so that I can be good at Worlds. Like that takes courage and I don't I mean, I know how hard he works and I don't doubt that he will show up. I just worry that there's something that um what if he doesn't get this triple axel back? Like I want to watch Jason at Worlds.
yes, I want to watch him too. I was one. So I actually liked the short program more than I have. I thought that it was coming alive more. Um, what I did notice is that between the short and the free, so in the short, he waited forever on the triple axel. In the free, he didn't wait forever, but he popped them. But I noticed that he was trying to make the change between the short and the long. And I thought that that was impressive.
Yeah. I mean,
Trying.
and him, if anyone else is going to see his mistakes and try to fix them, I think. Like he's smart, he's been around long enough so he's mature. I just like, is it a physical thing? Is it skates? Is he injured? Is it I just don't we can't lose him in a way, right?
No. So I don't know. Okay, so obviously they're going to offer him Zagreb if he wants to go. Typically, like we would send him. Do you think he should go, or do you think that he should stay home and get the jumps back if they're not ready?
Are you talking about like another competition right now?
Yeah, because usually when okay, so he
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
so Jason
I
did
think he
not
should
qualify for the Grand Prix final, right?
it
And this
depends on right. It depends on what he's doing at home. I think if he's landing the triple X at home and just missing in competition, absolutely go. You have to press that competition. But if he's struggling at home, then I think he should do what he's done in the last 2 years where he hasn't really competed. Go home and just work hard because he knows how to do that, obviously. Like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? We've seen him show up at nationals and worlds ready.
yeah. I agree. I think he doesn't need to do it, right? Like he went out on the Grand Prix. If he can do it and it's more competition, like good for him. But if it's going to help him to just train and take a couple days off, get back into training, and just
I don't think it'll change his skating order in the short program enough to make a difference. Like he's
yeah,
already gonna get like people, he has the respect and the like you know, the foundation from people knowing is the best skater in the world, skating wise, that he's not going to get, you know, sevens across the board for his components because he's in group two instead of group three of the warm up.
I actually think Yuma Kagiyama might be the best skater in the world skating wise.
Yes, I agree. Like skating wise, down the
Except
line.
he still needs to work on his extension. It's getting better, right? And he's short, so if any line is not stretched, it shows off more. It's getting way better, and he's way more in time and owning his music and being
Yeah,
in his music and embodying it.
yeah.
I thought both programs were really stunning here. And I just think it's a shame that he really can't beat Ilya, but he doesn't have the swagger that Ilya has.
So I think he's a very shy person.
Hmm.
Having met him and talked to Carolina a little bit, I think he's a very shy person. So, and he's very cerebral.
Hmm.
So when he's skating, and we can appreciate that, and I think that's why he's beloved in a way because you know he's like out there and you kind of see him even though it's not here I am. It's like
Hmm.
this is what I'm doing. And he is still good and he's you know he's getting better every time because he is trying to think about it and improve. But like you said, he doesn't have the swagger. So sometimes if you don't act like you're the best, then you're the second best.
Yes. He doesn't act like he's the best. He needs to get the quad lutz and the quad flip consistent and consistently in the program, right?
I
And that,
mean, that I think he will do because he is a smart skater and
yeah,
he's probably training smart and that's probably the goal. So there's that, but you know, you're comparing somebody who is top-notch quality to someone like Elia who is the better jumper but still young and green at skating.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting to me. I think that Yuma has a lot more growth in him. I wonder where he will get by the Olympics versus the
Yes.
next Olympics. The other thing is, though we view Ilya as unbeatable, he has had a lot of competitions where he hasn't performed at his max. He typically does at Worlds, but at
Yeah.
Nationals, he has not done it the last 2 years, which shows
Yeah.
that the Olympics might not be a complete slam dunk. So someone like Yuma could have a shot if he can do harder content cleanly.
Sure. Also, the person that we think is going to win the Olympics rarely does.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's the Olympics and there are five rings and it
Hmm.
changes everyone's mindset. So, you know, we never know. And I was very sad for Cow here because I think he is a reckless and dangerous and exciting skater.
Yeah.
But I also think that he could like his short program is really good because it is dynamic like that. But his long is a little bit more boring than I wish, but he also has to land the jumps. Because he's reckless, because he skates without any, you know, like gives up all abandon, he does miss because it's that quality of like that's what we love about him, but that's what makes his skating less consistent than, for example, Yuma, who is trustworthy.
Yeah.
And
I
this,
was surprised that Cal was as off here as he was. He's not typically this off. It really
yeah,
frustrated him in the
oh, it made me
free.
so sad.
Both quad toes, similar, the
And when
axle.
he falls, because he's like everything, I first kind of watched him skate in Japan for Stars this spring, and I was watching him in practice. And I mean, when he was doing, I don't know if it was his short from last year or just a show program, but he was doing something in practice, and he went to go like he was just like when you do something, he goes beyond, like he goes as far as you possibly can, and it's so exciting, but it's dangerous, right? It's a little
Mhm.
bit Patrick Chan-esque where you could
Mhm.
just go too far and fall over. And he did this like split falling leap with his head completely back. And I was like, you know, someone does a head roll and they don't go all the way back. And because it's hard on the ice. And I was just like, this guy is exciting. But when he jumps, it's just as exciting. It's
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But also that's sometimes why we watch skating, because you don't want to know the answer.
Yeah. He's against some guys in Japan that have been kind of safe. Like Sota and Shun both are not that dynamic. So
They're
it
not,
makes him stand
not
out.
compared to him. I mean, he is of the men in the world right now. He could like have that skate and win worlds because he's that good if he has the right program and the right energy and the right magic. Or
Yeah,
he could not make it to worlds because
he often loses in the packaging and just the styling, and he's not wearing makeup. And a lot of the Japanese boys aren't currently, and they don't look like they finish all of the polished details. Even though we're sort of getting away from that in this hoodie era of skating, they just don't look. If you don't look like a winner, it's hard to beat the winner.
and I worry about that with Yuma because we always at what we like the skating world saw him as second to Yuzu.
Hmm.
Because I'm sorry, but like everyone was second to Yuzu in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like that was just how it was. So it sort of is like, or second to Shoma.
Hmm.
He hasn't quite stepped into the winner
Hmm.
in the minds of people because now then he was second to Ilya. So he's just the runner up. So people don't see him as the one to beat still.
Hmm.
I
He's the
mean,
really
in Japan,
beloved,
obviously he is.
pleasant runner-up.
Yeah.
Um, I really liked Tatsuya Suboi, his Pagliacci program. I loved it.
It was exciting. It was exciting to see somebody like people that are young like that skate with that excitement.
Hmm.
That sometimes people who have been around long enough and done enough clean programs are like, well, that was another one. But I love that excitement that he had. And it's fun to see that the Japanese are doing so well this year. The
Yes.
ladies, the
They're
men, they're
rebuilding. They
winning
kind of
everything.
they had a flat year. Obviously, the shows didn't have the same attendance in the summer, but it looks like they're coming alive again.
What concerns me is that they're all skating to classical music almost. And it's like they're trying to be Shoma and they're trying to be Yuzu. But in that kind, like I respect that kind of skating, but you can't stand out in a crowd if you're doing what everyone else does.
It's a good point. Did you like Yuma?
Yuma?
Yeah.
Of course I liked Yuma.
Okay.
See, I also think that Yuma comes by the classical skating, honestly,
Yes.
because he feels it and that's what drives him to do it. So I'm okay with him skating. But when Shun does it and when Sota does it and when Kao does it and you know, when they all do it, then they're the ones lost in the mix because I don't want to say we get them confused, but just no one stands out, right?
Yeah.
And then you could do, I mean, like Daniel Grassel did something that was interesting.
Okay, I want to talk to you about him. First of all, he was banned. He's never
Yes.
spoken about his ban when he missed several doping tests, three. He's never talked about that. He was allowed back a year earlier than expected. I don't think public opinion is really on his side at this point, but that doesn't really matter. If he can get it done. He's always lacked style. I respect that he's trying to do something like this Billy Elliot program.
I was gonna ask, I thought it was Billy Elliot. I really liked the idea of it, and his problem is that he can't glide down the ice.
Okay.
Like when you watch the step sequence, he can't take okay, Jeremy Abbott is one of the best examples, or the Japanese skaters. When they glide, they gain more speed,
Hmm.
and when he glides, it's just like he has to take 10 more steps to get to the next one
Okay.
because
Yeah.
he can't so his step sequence was a vivid example of his lack of skating skills.
Okay.
However, his jumps are quite beautiful. Like he really knows how to find the landing.
Mm.
We also know halfway down the ice that he's only focusing on that jump, which you can be forgiven when you are doing 10 quads in your program. Like, I get it.
On one hand, I think that the Billy Elliot program is trying to make him pay attention to his limbs, but then at times it shows the weakness. Although I
But
like costume, like the fact that it was simple and
I
straightforward.
also thought, and hear me out on this one, I do agree that he doesn't have the lines for a
Hmm.
dancer, but Billy Elliot is a young boy at the beginning.
Hmm.
And Daniel Grasso, with the outfit and how he skates, in a way, is a young boy.
Hmm.
Like that unpolished, unfinished, young looking movement is kind of him. So I didn't hate this idea for him because it does make him look unpolished, but he is unpolished. So why not kind of embrace it?
But the whole thing about like Billy Elliot is the denouement, right? Where he's doing Swan Lake and Daniel Grossel does not get to that point. And that point is a really weak part of the program. There's also way too many music edits. It's super
Yeah.
literal. Like we have to hit every
Yeah.
song on the
No,
soundtrack.
I thought that, yes, I thought that the idea was great.
And I always go back and forth about if a man can skate to a woman skating, but I think sometimes why theater music doesn't work in skating is that it's so big, and people have different opinions on this, but at some point it just sounds like a woman is like shouting, and it doesn't match what he's doing on the ice.
If you react to it, if you don't,
Yeah.
if you just let it play and you don't react to it, then it's like, why? But if you're
Yeah.
reacting to it, then there's something interesting and different about it that is like, it picks your interest and it also is like, oh,
Mm.
but he didn't quite react to it. It was like the idea was there, but the execution was not quite
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. But
For
there's
example, if Matteo Rizzo did that program, could you see how he would react to the voice? Like he's got such personality and he's such like character, and it makes you just want to root for him whenever you watch him skate. But had he done that, I would have been interested in, say, for example, how he would react to the voice.
yeah.
By the way, I
What
like Matteo Rizzo, obviously.
yeah. What did you think of Andrew Torgashev? So Jenny pointed out that he skates a lot like Alexei Yagudin in terms of
Right.
like the way he leads his jumps. There's a broy Russian quality to it.
And he skated to something that was very like old school Russian in a way.
In the short program, yeah. Well, the
Um,
short program is like that style, right? That the
yeah.
more like modern
But
Shaolin Russian
the
kind of.
problem was everyone was getting to classical and he was lost in that mix of everyone's getting to classical, even though it was dynamic-ish. I just like, I don't know. I mean, he's a great skater. And the more I watch him skate, the more I'm like, he really is a strong skater. I just think they haven't capitalized on how to package him.
I think that Scheherazade comes across a touch generic, but they're trying to make him more sophisticated. So I understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Safe.
It's hard. It's hard to be unique or at least or try to figure out what you want to do when you're trying to like be accepted by the judges and land all of your jumps and make sure that you don't, rub people the wrong way with your choice of what you know what I mean, like what you choose to do, and also to come up with something new when like you're busy.
And he's never been this trained before for the Grand Prix.
He looks great and he looks improved from last year at nationals when he looked good. But it to me, it's just that's the only thing is I don't love the programs on him. I don't hate them.
I like his short better than the free. I also I do notice he's a little bit pigeon-toed in the air, so his air position is just a little bit open.
Which is Alexei Yagudin-esque.
Yes, he is way more consistent. So I really want to give him props because I do get messages from some people that watch skating and they're saying, like, why aren't his components higher? And one of the things that I pointed out is he has been on the international scene, but he's never done well, right? So we're used to him doing well at US nationals and maybe competitions
Mhm.
after, but he really hasn't done well in the international scene. So though he's like seen as like a good American, he never has been in
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that kind of throws him in the like in a mix with like Camden and Tomoki, where he just hasn't delivered consistently during the fall.
Speaking of Tomoki, so good to see him here. And I'm wrong. He also had a program that stood out from
Okay.
the. I enjoyed Tomoki very much. It was nice to see him skate well. I don't know if his jumps were downgraded or what happened to his points. I don't really care. I just enjoyed him, and I was so happy to see him skate well.
Yes. He's been around for a long, long time too. Okay, I have to ask you about the women.
Okay. But did we
Mm.
forget any other boys?
I think we hit all the important boys that we have to get
I,
to.
I I also Mateo Rizzo, like I'm a big fan of his. I don't really love this Fix You program, but I still feel like he still shows us his personality and still makes you want to root for him. And I really hope he continues to do well.
Okay, point on Fix You. It was like generic straight people music, even when the Shibutanis did it, but it worked the first time in 2016.
And it gets the audience in with you because they know the music and it does build. So it gives you that like, I'm doing a good program and it's getting better feeling, which is great for the judges because they want to give you more points. But I just was like, he's so much better than this, actually.
It lost its artistic luster when music gets old in skating. And it's just,
Or you get compared.
yes. And then Alexa and Brenda did Fix You. And like now it's at the grown part for me.
Yeah,
Coldplay.
but I also think he's so much better than that. Like he has something that a lot of skaters right now don't have, and it's that charm.
Mm, he does
And
have a
I mean,
charm.
also he's a fantastic skater.
Yes. So, and that comes, his dad's an ice dancer, so he really does know how to skate.
You could
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. Okay. Yuna Aoki, her short program in the red dress, the step sequence, she's like the best thing since Yuka Sato. I'm just telling you, like she's so good in this
But
program.
remember we talked about her last year? She was our moment from Skate Canada or something
Okay, well,
last
like,
year.
why can't we love her here? Her
No,
short
no,
program
no,
is
no. I
so
just
good
mean
here.
that
And
we
she's
like,
using the correct music cut of Adios No Nino, which people get it wrong all the time, including Yuna Kim, had a terrible cut of Adios No Nino, and I think it hurt her at the Olympics. I think it was like concordant and just sounded like noise. Like this is like melodic and it has heart to it, and it's what Yuna needed. And this just, I don't know, it's so good.
gorgeous, gorgeous. Her jumps are a little bit scarier than, say, for example, Monet's. But that is, and I only say that because like it probably is makes her less consistent. But
Mhm.
that aside, what a beautiful skater. Short program, free program, like the joyfulness of her skating, which I recall from last year.
The edges.
The
It's
edge,
so
everything, everything. We don't have to talk about her because she's so good.
the short program. Just watch the step sequence. So good. It's
Right? Actually, her step sequence, I was like, this is how to do a step sequence in this system and make people want to watch it.
yeah, maybe Madison Chock could design a dress for her free skate. Like it's there's just like a lot of stuff happening in the middle
Okay.
of the dress that's like stuck on
A
applique.
lot, right? There's
Yeah.
too, she's such a beautiful skater that she needs something very simple.
Yeah. What do you make of Mona Chiba? So I got an interesting text from a friend that she said her arms remind me of Christy Yamaguchi. And I thought,
Really?
huh.
Okay, so again, I met her
Oh.
in person. I met her in person when we were there for Stars in spring. First of all, I thought she was 13
Mhm.
because she's got such a young face and a very like bubbly demeanor. And she did her Ladies in Lavender program, which is her exhibition program. And I was like, oh, she's so much better than this. She's got something there that is not just let's do classical and be pretty. Then her short program, which I believe Weaver did, but I'm not sure if she did the short
Mhm.
or the free. Did Weaver do the short?
Uh, okay. First of all, my
It's brilliant. I love
encyclopedia,
her short.
I believe she did.
I
Yes.
love her short. Her short is exactly what I want to see from her. And she does it so well. I've seen her do it a little bit better. She was, I think, a tiny bit like, I've got to do my job here. And that's okay. But
Yes.
I love her
Weaver did The
short.
Last Dance by Donna Summer. Lori Nickel did the free. Okay.
Okay. So, like, full congrats to Weaver because it's the right style for her. It's such an adorable program. It's very, like, I could see very much Yuka doing it. Like, it's got that,
Mhm.
like, very peppy, happy vibe. I love it.
And gets a little big for her. And I do notice this in Weaver's programs in general. She picks music that's a little bit bigger than the skater. And it's just like
And
a,
that's okay because it will make her perform it more. And I think that's what she needs because I think she's got that.
okay.
I really, really like, and her free program is also great. Um, it's from a soundtrack, I believe. And
Yeah.
I
It's
also liked it. Just the short is brilliant.
her, it's the Ariana Concerto #1, Adagio
I was
Sostenuto.
wrong. It sounded like a soundtrack.
So I don't, yeah, but
But it
it's
sounded like a
great.
story. Sorry, you know what I mean?
It was great.
Thank you.
You're getting a little bit of a Canadian accent. I'm just like your O's. You're
Sorry.
just putting it out. I like her skating. It's
Sure.
and she does have that precision like Christy Yamaguchi that Christy had. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. No, I like her. I liked her when I met her. Sometimes you don't notice someone until you watch them in person. And I saw her in person. And I'm like, I very much like her.
What do you think of Kaori Sakamoto? So a couple weeks ago, people were really worried about the direction she was going in. I can't unsee the dress. Other
I
than
can't unsee the dress. I don't want to say it out loud.
but she needs to get a new dress. She just needs a new
I
dress.
I like the program better. Like I think she's getting more comfortable with it. She's in
It's
her
again,
home
it's a
crowd.
stretch. It's another stretch.
Yeah. I don't
It
think
was
it's her
on.
Olympic program for sure, but I think that she's more comfortable with it. And when she's comfortable or not, I mean, she's so engaging. She's so adorable. And she just so like you want to watch more of her. You want to see her laugh and smile like she does. It'd be funny, which would be great in a program, but I don't know if they are bold enough and brave enough to do that because then you're putting your world champion on the ship on the line, right? When you're fourth and maybe third, then you can take the risk. But when you're first, it's harder to take a risk.
And last year she was so boring. Both programs.
This
So,
one I think is better, and I think it is growing on me. Both the short and the free were she was sharper,
mhm.
which makes it more exciting.
And she had more energy.
Yes.
Her problem, her spins can get really slow. Uh, Especially at the end. She was exhausted. It's a high energy program in a free, which is another reason it's kind of a risk. And her combo spin, you can get slow. And if she's in a close competition, that can hurt her. I don't,
Who is she in a close competition with right now?
well, she gets in a close competition if she makes mistakes, right? So and sometimes her,
Yes, but she's still at the point where they're protecting her.
yes,
I'm not saying I agree with or disagree with. I'm just saying that she doesn't have a close runner up that they're also going to push over the edge of.
but if Wakaba did that triple axel, it can get that combo. Like Wakaba's
Japanese national,
rising, like she's
Japanese nationals is going to be so exciting
yes.
and nerve-wracking and heartbreaking and all those
Which is
things.
good because it hasn't been the last, definitely last year it was not. Uh, and it's getting so like I'm excited for Japanese nationals after NHK. Like it's
For
gonna be
sure, right? There's going to be so many.
yeah, and I would like to see Marin, Shoma, and Yuzu do exhibitions. I would like to see them like as part of the party. I think we need to invite them back. I think at US Nationals they should invite back some people too to make it more of a event. You know,
I
just
wonder if they ever thought about that.
what'd you say?
I said, I wonder if they've ever thought about that.
I don't know. Like, I think that Jason should perform at US Nationals every year, even when he's retired. It should be like a thing. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to do a new program at Nationals in Virgo.
And all of those novice and junior that go to nationals should be
Yes.
forced to watch him skate.
Yes.
Anyways, just period. They should be forced to watch him skate. Sorry. Um,
Plus, if we had one or two more former champions, it's a way to like keep the skaters engaged.
I
Like someone
agree.
like Jeremy should be invited back to US Nationals to perform.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. I know Canadians does a
That are
good bit.
known as like quintessential skaters, not
Yeah.
just the winner of something.
Yes. Um, Alyssa Liu was great. Who's the other? Oh, Brady. I forgot that Brady was there.
Okay, Alyssa Liu, what's your take on her? I think the short program is really coming along nicely.
I think she's getting stronger. I
Mhm.
think her jumps are getting a little bit stronger. I think her skating is getting a little bit stronger. The free program, she didn't look like she died as much. And I just mean power wise. Like
Yes.
it kept the energy better. I mean, it's really fun to see her because she's mature and she comes around and she does something and she takes her time to hold an edge. And I'm missing that so much in skating. And I'm so happy that she's doing that. And coming from her of all people, I didn't really expect it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, having watched her, she was a jumper.
So the programs are a risk because usually you would do the Donna
I know
Summer
that's what I
free.
love about it.
Yes, it would usually be a short program because energetically it's really difficult. And that's where we see her struggle at the end of this program.
But what she does do in the short, because it could be very boring, is she doesn't lose us for a second.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what it is hard to do something slow, is that you can also just throw it away, do a jump, and then pick it back up. And she doesn't really do that.
She's growing with the program. And I think Isabeau's situation is unclear at this point, and this could give her a little bit of a boost
Yeah, what
going
happened? She pulled out of her second one.
out of her second Grand Prix that hasn't been announced why.
Well, I hope she's okay.
Yeah,
US Nationals is gonna be exciting for women.
it's going to be exciting for women. And
Because
if
Brady was great as well.
Brady has been very, very solid. Like,
And she's got again that drive that to come back, right? It's
mhm.
not like she's just doing it because she was there. Like, no, she's coming back for a reason, and you can see that. And I do like her programs for her, especially her short this year.
You like the short?
I think she likes the short, which makes me like the short.
I just think that the footwork, her style of footwork and the edges that she's good at do not match the up-tempo part of that music. So I like that short program until we get to the step sequence. And
That's
then
fair.
I feel like it's just a weird mismatch.
And you know what? Structurally, people think that the footwork is the most dynamic part of the program, which is hard in the new system because you have to hold your entry and exit edges. What do you want, sweetie pie? Um,
Like if
so
she had Kurt's feet, maybe, or Jason Brown's, we could be
I think
doing.
he wants to say something. What do you want to say?
He
No,
wants to say that Brady doesn't have to wear costumes that are as like Benoit edgy. Like she could wear
I don't
like
hate it.
I don't hate it, but I feel like the gloves are not necessary in the free.
The gloves in on the ice are not my favorite either.
Like I always feel like Benoit takes like a pretty concept and then makes it like a little edgy. And I'm like, Brady could just be pretty. Yeah, she's capable. What did you make of Lindsay?
Okay, I don't know why she got so low of a score, but I'm assuming her jumps are short.
Jumps are short.
Okay,
Almost everyone.
everyone should go to Sandra Bezic and David Wilson, especially like Sandra Bezic, but when she works with David, it's also like it gives you something it gives you something different. Like, and I love both of her programs. I thought that she really, really, really took her time in this free skate. And I think that um it's not sharp, but it's not slow.
Mhm. I mean, the
And
spiral is amazing, and the
no, I
camera.
think it's really cool because I was not like this program is too long. I wanted to end. Like I really enjoyed start to end.
The
I was
dress is great in this Machu. Uh,
pardon?
the dress is great in the free. It's
Yeah,
Machu.
I love it.
I do notice that when she skates, her head is always upright. And when she's into her edges, I just want to see her lean, which also like adds to your expression of the music if you
Yeah.
turn your head just a little bit. And I think that she could use her head a little bit more in her edges. This is like a natural thing. He's stealing the show right now. Just
Um, that's funny. But no, I just hope that her jumps do clean up because I think that I also think that what she has to offer might not be this year and it might be in 3 years for the next cycle, but I don't want to lose what she has because there is something special there, I think.
she's moving much better, right? From
Um,
the short program, last year opened this up. The free program is developing this style of her. Oh, I have
yes.
Sandra's quote and what the program is about. We'll have to do very
What?
sad. Oh, I'm wearing a turtleneck for her. This is great. She's a fan of a black turtleneck. Okay. All right. Lindsay's long program is all about is the joy of all movement on the ice, the sensuality and the power of skating, jumping, spinning, and everything between. And like the short program, in a very personal, honest way, rather than falsely performative. I love when Sandra gives shade. Like she's talking about other programs there, which is not Lindsay. David and I wanted to showcase Lindsay's power and flexibility, her spins, and her clean, pure lines. We're encouraging her to get inside her music, to become another instrument within the song, to move as it dictates and connect to the rhythm, melody, and lyrics at a visceral level. So we as the audience really listen and hear it through her. All right, Sandra, we get it.
But
She's
but I hope that like I really like her programs and I don't think she's quite there yet personally.
she's getting there.
But she's getting there. I hope that they continue to use Sandra and David.
You knew what rank she was at and how oppressive and yelling the female Russians that she works with are, and just the whole vibe of Hackensack. What Sandra and David have done is a miracle. The mismatch
Okay.
of that with like her coach is like
Because
such,
then she's being treated like a child while she's supposed to skate like an adult.
yes. And Hackensack has all younger people at this point in time that are all so I really do think that she would benefit from you mentioned visiting Yuka or Tracy, I think Yuka, we could get Jason to help with the jumps, right? And you get Jason, but like, that could be a nice trip to her to Michigan for a while, but she's
Um,
developing. Yeah.
very because I have to go very quickly. I would like to say that the Italian girl, Lara Naki Gutman, I enjoyed her very much. And those
Yeah.
like pure huge jumps and her
Yes.
quirky style in the short. But she's looking
Paris quickly. I have to say, I thought the
oh,
Russians were good, but
can
the
I
Georgians, yes.
can I say yo, can I say one more thing about the women?
Yeah.
Is I'm concerned about the Koreans.
Okay.
They
I'm just
look like they're going to get punished if they miss anything, but they've already given up beforehand. And I'm like, there's a very strange vibe that is super concerning to me because they're all beautiful skaters, but there's nothing there right now. Do
you could
we?
be onto something. They compete a lot,
That's what
and
I was wondering. Is it just too many competitions for them? And so it's like
I
they're
think there's
you've
a lot
given
of
up
pressure
trying?
and a lot of competitions.
And because they're all beautiful skaters, and they look so scared and so over it. And I'm concerned.
Yellum looks really burned out at this point, injured and burned out.
Yeah, but they're beautiful skaters and they're good skaters and like I like watching them.
Yeah. In the pairs,
Okay. The Georgians, how fantastic were they?
They were really good.
Oh, and they're sharp and they're dynamic and they're, I keep using that word today, but they're so exciting because they're so sharp
Yes.
and fierce and fit and like,
And we
you know,
talk about older skaters, Riku and Arichi just have that vibe. Like their programs are more complex and difficult. He's had some injuries, and I feel like it's going to take them longer to get into tip-top shape.
but I think they're getting there and they look motivated this year. And it's so fun to see Yurichi with that big smile on his face when he's skating because it looks like it's just, he's just in love with skating. And I love that. And they look like they're getting back there this year. Like they look like they're coming back and they're not there, but they look like they're getting there.
So I went at Ellie Kim and Danny O'Shea. There's been a lot of mixed feelings on this. They've improved a lot. The USFS is pushing them. They have them working with Marie France. They're also really boosting their scores. This is their fourth competition. Uh, they've definitely taken steps up this year. They still have some struggles on the jumps. Do you think the USFS is pushing them too hard to try to invent something quickly, or do you think this team is going to get it together?
I just wish that they had 4 years underneath their belts at this moment
Yeah.
because I mean, you look at, for example, Ryuichi he was last at events for 8 years. And now he's finally at the top because he's finally got that pair situation down. And it just takes a while. And I think Danny's just had so many partners, and these guys have been together, I don't know how long, but it doesn't quite vibe in the same way yet. I'm not saying it's not going to get there, and I do think they're good, but they don't have that spark yet that
Yeah.
makes you number one.
Yeah. And the age difference is difficult to do that with. Um,
That's
there
it too,
is
right?
something there in the free, like you can see the style is becoming more cohesive with the music. It is a lot of pressure on them to become this team, they need to be the team in the team event, right? And it's
Oh,
just,
right. Of course, we need a team, yes.
and everyone focuses on her jumps and throws.
But I like Emily and Spencer too. I don't think that they're as strong element wise yet,
Not
but
yet.
they're also beautiful skaters. So I wish that like we could have that like neck and neck sort of fighting
I think we
because
will. Emily and
they
Spencer
are,
just need to get healthy. And
yeah,
that's the biggest problem.
that's hard. He just wants to go, sorry.
Well, what was your moment of the NHK Trophy?
The Georgian team. I watched their short and I was excited to watch pair team,
So I loved Yuma, but I have to say Yuna Aoki's short
of
program
course.
was the so hold an edge, look sexy, everyone. Bye.